let's move on to this past weekend of the game. Because there is one like big game of the weekend that jumped out to me. One team playing really well and one team that's faltering. And then to wrap the show, we will walk through 5 unheralded guys in Peter Apple's opinion. The Easton McGee game on Saturday in Toronto caught me by surprise. This was a 1-0 Blue Jay win in 10. It's really hard to sneak a big leaguer by me. Like, being a AAA announcer, I tend to see all these guys, or at least see them on the stat portal or read about them before they get up for their major league debut if they're in the PCL. But hand up, I didn't know who Easton McGee was.
I had no idea either. And then I turn on the game and watch this guy throw an 89-90, and the Blue Jays couldn't do nothing with him. I thought I was like dreaming. This didn't seem real.
He was no hit through 6. Easton McGee's final line in his first career start. He had thrown 3 innings out of the bullpen, not with the Mariners. This was his first Mariner appearance. This was his first start in his big league career. Easton McGee, 6 2/3 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 2 punch outs, 1 walk. He threw 64 pitches. I want to say the 4th and 5th went by in 8 pitches, maybe 10 pitches. What the hell was that?
Thought it was less. He was just getting his ground ball outs, and I loved the line too. 6 innings. What did he have? I think he had no hits, right? He finished the line with no hits?
No, 1 hit. Just walked through it. 6 2/3. So he threw into the 7th. He got 2 outs in the 7th. 1 hit, no runs, 2 punch outs, 1 walk.
That's the best. 1 hit, 2 punch outs. So he's keeping the ball off the barrel, right? And that's the name of the game. But what did stink is they lost the game, even though they got a 1-hit performance. Kevin Gausman was unfreaking believable. The splitter set a whiffs record for an individual pitch, something that I don't see it ever being broken again. Over 20 whiffs on that splitter, punched out 13 guys. We talked about at the beginning of the year, could he take that leap to Cy Young contender? And I think he's doing that right now.
Yeah, and he already looked like a Cy Young contender, like front end of last year, but really through the All-Star break with San Francisco in 21. Kevin Gausman looked like that guy. He tapered off. I think the thing that I was asking was, would he become the unquestioned ace of the Toronto Blue Jays? And, you were selling high on Manoah. I think Aram was kind of selling high on Manoah. I was like, these guys, like, they're co-aces. Manoah had like a 2-3 last year. Gausman, without a doubt, right now. After that performance, he didn't get the win. They won 1-0 in 10 again, but 7 innings, shutout ball, 13 punch outs, 1 walk. This guy lowered his ERA to 2.33 after that blow-up start in Houston. I want to say last weekend or the weekend before. This guy is the unquestioned ace of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Alek Manoah, single worst expected ERA among all qualified starters. You heard me correctly. 7 xERA, the worst among all qualified starters. And for Mariners fans, it definitely stinks. You get an incredible outing from Easton McGee, and you lose in a 1-0 game because your offense didn't show up.
Yep.
But is it any worse, and I think it is, than Lance Lynn starting the game with a no-hitter and then losing 12-3? You don't deserve this. You don't deserve this
in a good way or a bad way.
No. As a person, as a nice guy, you don't deserve this kind of pain. And another loss today.
You went a little too far saying as a nice guy. I'm not sure about that, but it's weird. And like, I was actually going to highlight something else in that game. So Lance Lynn was no hit through 6, and they lose 12-3. The thing that I wanted to highlight was Luis Robert Jr. being pulled by a managerial decision because apparently he had tight hammies that he didn't tell anybody about.
Oh, yeah, we could talk about that also on top of what's been happening.
Yeah, so which one do you want to start with? Which one you want to start with?
What pains you the most? Is it your best player has, quote unquote, in hamstring issues? For those watching on YouTube, I'm being very serious about that. Yeah. And not jogging to first base when he easily could have. It's not one of those things where it's like it would have been a bang bang play if he ran it out. He would have been easily safe.
Yeah.
Just didn't run down the line. Eloy Jimenez got his batting average up over 200 though.
I think it's back down.
It was up there for a minute.
Yeah, I think he had a rough go on Sunday, and I think it's down. It's 7-5 through 8. The Rays are beating the White Sox.
Okay.
Eloy Jimenez is 3 for 4, so he's at 215. Good.
That's
for
what I'm
Eloy.
saying. Hitting his weight.
Come up, man.
Yeah.
This is
Jake
exciting
Berger.
stuff. Jake Berger's been the only bright spot. And like even Cease has struggled, man. I mean, Cease just lost to Tampa on Friday. Here's the thing. Lance Lynn, 6 no-hit. He was clearly pissed off because we mentioned it. Steve Stone, the TV analyst, hopped on the score and said if he wants to improve his cardiovascular endurance, he should maybe try eating a couple salads. Like, what a dick thing to say. And then Lynn comes back out and shoves, but then the wheels fall off. And like, again, on Sunday, the wheels fall off. They're up in the top of the 8th. Guess what happens? They're trailing after 8. That I think was the worst loss of the season on Saturday. And again, there have been a lot of them. There have been 22 of them to this point. They are 7-22. They are tied with the Royals for the worst record in the American League. Worst record in the AL Central. I think Oakland has fewer wins than the White Sox and the Royals. So, I mean, like, I didn't have the White Sox being in the A's and Royals conversation on my bingo card. But again, what can you have on the bingo card going into a season? I put out, as of Sunday morning, the Cardinals are 10 games back of the Pittsburgh Pirates on April 30th. Not on my bingo card.
Not on my bingo card at all. They've had some dominating wins too. 16-1. And it's hard to win both games of a doubleheader. And they did it. Now, their competition wasn't exactly the most challenging when you're throwing up Patrick Corbin and Chad Kuhl on the Washington Nationals.
Yeah.
But you have to give these Pittsburgh Pirates credit because they are getting so much production from guys that you've either never heard of or you forgot they were on the Pittsburgh Pirates. How about Vince Velasquez lowering his ERA to around 3.0? How about Rich Hill, who just continues to get outs? Mitch Keller is real. Roansy Contreras is real. And Yohan Oviedo? Oviedo, I bet the Cardinals wish they still had him.
So Oviedo, it was a weird arc to his career. And I think I've talked about it for a minute, but Yohan Oviedo was a good reliever, a not good starter with St. Louis. And he was the primary piece going back in the Quintana deal. It was Quintana and Chris Stratton, who's a bullpen arm, for Oviedo and Malcolm Nunez, who's like a corner masher. He plays first base and DHs. But Oviedo was the guy that I think the Pirates like ID'd a starting pitcher. And out of spring, it was, okay, Brubaker's hurt. Oviedo was probably headed to Indy, but now that Brubaker is out, it's probably Oviedo as the 5, and now he looks excellent. I mean, Jack Sawinski's playing like an all-star right now. He's got a 1038 OPS in 22 games. Connor freaking Joe, man, has played 24 games. He's hitting 290 with a 960 OPS. Brian Reynolds hitting 320. Rodolfo Castro, who's huge in the absence of O'Neal Cruz, hitting 290, has an 850 OPS. This team has an 800 OPS. They have a 350 OBP. Miguel Andujar was great for Indianapolis. Then he goes to Pittsburgh and has a hell of a doubleheader.
Even the backup catcher, Jason Alea, is hitting 390. Every single player on the Pirates in 14 games. Carlos Santana is getting his. Brian Hayes, which is funny, is supposed to be, Brian Reynolds is the star of this team, but Brian Hayes is the all-world defender. And he hasn't really gotten going yet. I don't know if he ever will truly get going to the level of potential that a lot of us want from him. But even him playing that great a defense, if he can be a league average hitter, he's valuable. And this is all without O'Neal Cruz, which I think is the most amazing part of it. They lost O'Neal Cruz, and it was like, oh, well, that was kind of a fun thing for a little bit. Nah, doesn't matter. Everybody on this roster is contributing, and they might have the best closer in Major League Baseball right now in David Bednar.
So I was going to say that list changes all the time. The best relievers in the game is like as volatile a list as you can find. I was going to ask, is David Bednar a top 10 reliever in the game right now? Like, you're willing to go higher, like top 5.
Oh, I mean, if we're just looking at right now, like just straight up, we're taking only 2023 and not looking any other direction, how can you not say Bednar is the best reliever in baseball right now? Every
He's
single
awesome.
time he comes in, I think he's what, leading the league in saves?
Yeah,
His
he's
ERA
got
is like
9
0.5.
saves,
His ERA is what, 0.5?
0.7. Yeah, I mean,
Unbelievable.
the total line on him: 13 innings, 8 hits, 1 earned. He's got 9 saves in 10 opportunities. 13 innings, he's got 17 punch outs and 1 walk. And the thing about Bednar that's so much fun, like, yes, he's got some secondary offerings, but that like stocky guy, not the tallest, not the lankiest, like he's a fire hydrant on the mound. I think he could flip his glove up. Like he could flick his glove up and say, a 4-seam fastball is coming. Try and touch it.
Just rides at the top of the zone, and it's hard to make contact with it.
Crazy. So fun to watch Bednar closeout games. This Pirates team is
So
like
much fun.
hilariously awesome, and they are the best team in the National League as it stands right now. Like, do I think that they're the most talented team in the National League? No,
Yes.
absolutely not. But right
Yes.
now, the vibes couldn't be better. And you can raise that MF Jolly Roger, man. All right, walk me through 5 undervalued guys you think are having really nice starts to the year.
Yeah, so I compiled a list. I called it a top 5. It's not actually a top 5. It's just 5 guys when I've been watching baseball, crazy under the radar seasons on teams that you probably don't turn on the TV to watch, but I've just felt enamored in, and I felt every single time when I need them in a bet or whether I just turn on the game to watch, they are coming through, and I want to give them their shine because, we talk about the Pirates, we talk about a lot of these teams that are doing well, but even on teams that aren't doing too well, there are hidden stars that are really fun to watch. And of course, if your favorite player, favorite under the radar player doesn't make this list, don't hold it against me. We'll be doing this all the time, bringing up names just like we do every single day.
Yeah.
So first, we're going to start in Oakland, and we're going to look at Brent Rooker. I mean, the 28-year-old, he's been, he was a Minnesota Twin for a while. He's bounced around the league, but he's now hitting 340. Yeah, 340 with a 1,200 OPS and 8 home runs for the Oakland A's. You turn on an A's game and you look around the lineup and you're like, all right, it's Stu Ruiz. If he gets on, he is a demon on the base pass. That's someone exciting. But then it gets really, really dry. Ryan Noda can maybe hit you a little bit of a home run. But this A's offense has been scoring, and it's really on the backs of Brent Rooker. And another reason why I like Brent Rooker a lot, not only is he in the 100th percentile of hard hit rate, he's barreling the piss out of the ball. Every single ball that comes off his bat feels like a rocket. But you expect like a big righty who's 28 to just be like a lefty masher, right? You might think he has some CJ Crone in him, that he's just a splits guy. You face him against a righty and he's got no chance, but against those soft toss and lefties, he can hit some bombs. But how about this? Brent Rooker against right-handed pitching this year is hitting 381, 519, 786 with a 1305 OPS. He has more walks than strikeouts. 5 of his 8 home runs are against righties. And against lefties, he's got a 900 OPS. He's just hitting everyone, anywhere, anytime. And it's so cool to see a 28-year-old really have a resurgence like this. I think everybody should be rooting for Brent Rooker right now.
So Brent Rooker, small sample. We're a month into the season.
We are a month into the season.
Brent Rooker has an isolated power number of 394.
It's amazing.
Do not see that ever. He's got a home run percentage, which is literally the amount of plate appearances that result in a home run. 10%, 9.8%. Like, what? You come to the plate 5 times in game 1 of a doubleheader. Rooker probably going to go, 2 for 5, right? Game 2, percentages indicate that he's going to hit a home run that game. Like, it's incredible what he's doing right now. In an orthodox way, I'd say he's walking more than he has in any big league cameo that he's made before. He's striking out less than in any big league cameo that he's made before. He's hitting the ball on the ground less than he ever has before. And like, he's not really pulling the ball right now, which is interesting. 25% pull rate. Like, I think he's just having an out-of-body experience where like everything looks great and he's shooting hard hit baseballs up the gut, elevated, and they happen to leave a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. I mean, this guy's probably the hottest hitter in the game.
What I think is awesome is that the Oakland A's have scored 108 runs this season. He's got 20 RBIs. He's driving in like a
He's
fifth of
20% of
all
the offense. Yeah.
20% of the offense. I think that's incredible. Should we get on to number 2 on my list?
Yes.
All right. Jonah Heim of the Texas Rangers, I think, is developing into one of the better catchers in Major League Baseball. So we already knew that Jonah Heim was this incredible pitch framer. He's always near the top of these lists. Maybe not number 1 like Jose Trevino was last year of the New York Yankees, but he's always up there. He's got a good arm. He was always known as this defensive catcher. But in the last couple of seasons, the bat is really starting to show up. Now, he put up a 697 OPS last year. Wasn't great, but the power was there. 16 bombs, 20 doubles for a catcher in 127 games. That's pretty ideal, right? If you can get a really good defensive catcher who's going to hit you between 15 to 20 bombs and not be a liability at the plate, that's an everyday starting catcher. That's a good catcher in Major League Baseball, considering that offense isn't a catcher's strong suit, at least in Major League Baseball. Now, there's new catchers coming up, but at least at this point, a 697 OPS for a catcher is pretty average. But this season, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and we know defense is a strong suit for Heim. Like, he's not a bat first catcher that sucked.
No, he's a glove first catcher that put up an average offensive season. So if you're one of the best defenders and you're a league average hitter, it's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. But this season, 4 bombs, 6 doubles in 23 games, 900 OPS, 284 batting average. But what I'm looking at is the 372 on base percentage. The walk rate is spiking. He's making really good swing decisions. And if you look at a lot of his advanced numbers, this is only expected to get better because of how well he puts bat on the ball. Hits the ball really hard, and he hits a lot of different pitches, right? He's hitting 455 against off speed, 286 against breaking balls. So it's really hard to get this guy out, and he's dropped his ground ball rate by almost 10% since his rookie year, down to 32%. He is crushing baseballs and remains one of the best defenders in Major League Baseball and is currently number 1 in pitch framing.
Yeah.
This guy, man, I mean, the Rangers needed kind of one of these guys to step up to really take that next step, and Jonah Heim is doing it in droves.
Well, and Adolis looks like he's doing it too in the outfield. And we knew Garcia was talented. We knew that he could string together good years. I mean, he was, a 28-year-old rookie, but he had a great rookie season. Adolis Garcia actually looks like a guy that can play for the Texas Rangers into his early to mid-30s. I think Heim kind of fits that mold too. And, obviously, yes, you still see catching prospects, but I think there's less urgency behind the plate now for Texas. Didn't they give Mitch Garver an opportunity in recent years? Like they've given a couple guys auditions behind the plate, hoping that the perfect one would come along. And I think that this is the perfect stopgap until you get that marquee catching prospect that's starting to make their way through each organization as catching becomes cool again. So I can really appreciate what Heim is doing. And I hope that there has been a concerted effort to change the approach that has resulted in the much higher batting average and, like you're saying, the much higher OBP. If you had to slap an end of season OPS on him, it's not 900.
No,
I don't think it's 700. But if he's 780 to 800, that's a really good player.
Oh, that's one of the best catchers in Major League Baseball. If he puts up a 780 OPS with 20 bombs and plays that level of defense, he's a top 6, 7-ish catcher in Major League Baseball. But the thing is, and this is another thing I wanted to point out, 1,044 OPS in April of last season. What I really want for him is to not take that dive similar to what he did last year. So it's someone to monitor. If he can keep up this level of production, he becomes one of the best catchers in the game because of his defensive acumen.
Yeah.
Moving on, we're going to stay out west. We're going to stay out west, but we're going into the National League, and we're going to talk about a San Francisco Giant. And his name is Thairo Estrada. And he's played a lot of games at second, but he can play some short, and he can play some left field. And if you put him in right field, he'd be totally fine. He's like a Swiss Army knife utility guy for the San Francisco Giants. And he's just straight up one of the best hitters in the National League West. He's hitting 347 with a 929 OPS on the backs of a 535 slugging and a 394 on base percentage. 4 home runs, 8 steals. He's not striking out at all. And I'd like him to walk more, but again, cutting down the ground ball rate, hits off-speed pitches, hits breaking balls, crushes fastballs. It's really hard to get this guy out right now. And Thairo Estrada is a guy who feels like he's been around forever, right? Thairo Estrada, I feel like I've heard his name on 12 different teams. But really, he got his start in Major League Baseball with the Yankees and never really amounted to much, but then moved to San Francisco. In his first season in 2021, he was injured a lot, but put up an 812 OPS. Then in 2022, full season 722 OPS, but was 14 bombs, 21 stolen bases, and now is off to this crazy start. Like, he's 27 years old, and he's a good player. Like, he has been a pretty good player. Injuries have been rough, but he's got a good approach at the plate. I want him to walk more, but you can see a very, very solid utility guy with Thairo Estrada. The fact that he can play all different positions, and he could realistically be a 2020 guy with these new rules. Like, last year, he stole 21 bags in 140 games. He's obviously off to the races, stealing much more bags. Could he steal 25? Could he get up near 30? Maybe not, but is 25 reasonable with 15 to 20 home runs? That's a great player. Shout out Thairo Estrada.
He is the only good thing going on in San Francisco right now. And like, you can point to Lamont Wade and say, okay, like, what about Lamont Wade? And yeah, Lamont Wade is, he just had a homer in the first inning again in Mexico City on Sunday. Lamont Wade, while he is OPSing around 950, Lamont Wade has a 0.9 WAR so far. I'm going B WAR right now. Thairo Estrada is nearly double that right now. Lamont Wade is second on the Giants in WAR at 0.9. Thairo Estrada is at 1.6. He is more than double Mike Yastrzemski, who's third at 0.7. There's not a one-win player on the San Francisco Giants other than Thairo Estrada right now. So I guess the question becomes, if a team is willing to pay a premium for a dynamic, defensively versatile, solid hitter that you mentioned is a 2020 threat or a 2025 threat, should you move him for prospect capital?
Absolutely, they should. They should absolutely deal him after this first half. No doubt about it. But the thing is, it's not just, oh, let's take advantage of a first half. I do think he's a pretty solid player. He's 27. I thought he might be 37, but he's 27.
So Thairo Estrada hits his first year of arbitration next year. Estrada in his career is a 750 OPS guy. Hits 270 with a 330 on base. I will take that on my team.
Good player.
And if he can play multiple positions, I mean, hell, he can play second, he can play short, he can
play short.
Third,
like, he could play shortstop for you.
Yeah, like I don't, not in division, but he feels like a good Dodger ad, and they have the prospect capital to do it.
I could see that. My Yankees could use him because they suck. All right, let's get him back. I don't know why we let him go in the first place. Next up on the list. Oh, also one thing more about Thairo Estrada. Second in WAR among all second basemen.
Yeah.
All of them.
Who's ahead?
Marcus Semien.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been pretty damn good. Next up, we're going to the pitching side, and we're going to the American League Central to talk about Eduardo Rodriguez. Now, we talked about him last year, and he was off to a fine start, right? He was off to a pretty good start. Not great, but fine. 4.05 ERA last year, but he only threw 91 innings because of some off-the-field stuff that I prefer not to dive into at this current moment. What I do want to dive into is the fact that he has been a top 4 left-handed pitcher in all of baseball this season. You know, all we do is debate who's the best lefty. Is it Max Fried? Is it Julio Urias? Is it Shane McClanahan? Is it Framber Valdez? Eduardo Rodriguez has been in that conversation up to this point. Now, it's early, but Eduardo Rodriguez among left-handed starters is 4th in ERA at 2.21 but is first in innings pitched at 36 2/3. He's also second among all left-handed pitchers in expected ERA at 2.95, posting the lowest walk rate of his career, and he's throwing it wherever he wants to, right? It's not like he's seen this huge velo tick up, but the cutter that he's throwing is unhittable. Opponents are only hitting 0.74 against the cutter with an xWOB of 277. That's crazy low. Opponents can't hit his fastball. They're hitting 214. Opponents not hitting his sinker or his slider. It's the only thing that opponents are having, decent success off is that changeup, but it's not a pitch that he throws all that much. He's just getting outs. He's limiting hard contact. He's not walking anybody, and he's getting the ground ball when he needs it. Eduardo Rodriguez is a guy throughout his career who's a 4.08 ERA guy, but that's on the backs of a tough 2016, which was his second year, and his last season in Boston. He's really been a high threes guy, and the reason why I wanted to bring him up, perfect trade candidate at the deadline for the Tigers if they want to cash in on Eduardo Rodriguez. I know that he still has the contract, so it's not like you're going to get a ton for him, but a team at the deadline is going to be pretty desperate for starting pitching. And if this guy is at a 3 ERA at the All-Star break, the Tigers could get a pretty package for him.
Yeah, I think this is a trade candidate. Great example. I think Eduardo Rodriguez is a perfect St. Louis Cardinal.
Exactly.
So that's how I view him. When I said that Thairo Estrada was the only good thing happening for the San Francisco Giants, I mean it when I say Eduardo Rodriguez is the only good thing happening for the Detroit Tigers.
Matt Vierling is pretty good.
Okay, so I was actually going to point to the offense here. There are 3 guys, 3 qualified hitters. So that means 20 or more games. Actually, 18 or more games. With an OPS plus over 100. So
okay, league average.
3 above league average hitters. Zach McKinstry has a 138 OPS plus. McKinstry been solid. Vierling and Kerry Carpenter, who's on the IL. So
Matt Vierling, though,
just for reference, OPS plus. Riley Green has an 81. Okay. Bad.
That's not ideal.
Spencer Torkelson has a 63.
Not ideal.
Javier Baez has a 57.
That's how much money is he making?
Rome has fallen. He's 6 years, 140.
Okay.
For Baez.
Maybe he could be a trade candidate.
Yeah.
They could get Gregory Soto back, maybe.
I mean.
No, but shout out the Tigers, though. Matt Vierling and Nick Maton for Gregory Soto. I mean, what a trade. Phillies, they could weather it because they didn't really need Vierling or Maton. They were good bench pieces. So it's not like, oh, Phillies, you completely got fleeced. I've seen a lot of that. It's like, oh, Phillies. It's one thing when it's like the Phillies knew what they were doing and they needed a guy like Gregory Soto, but the Tigers did so well in that deal. Matt Vierling is hitting leadoff and is a above average hitter. Just getting him would be great. But even Nick Maton has been fine. He has a walk-off home run to his name. He's been pretty solid. The fact that they got 2 everyday guys for a reliever, I thought the Tigers did an incredible job in that deal.
Yeah.
Should I move on to the last under the radar player?
Sure.
Okay. This one's kind of funny, but
he
has been nails. Right? You know who I'm about to bring up. He's been nails. What do you want me to say? I'm shouting out under the radar guys on teams that nobody's turning on the TV to watch. And nobody's watching Rockies games, but I am. And I've been seeing 33-year-old Harvard graduate, learned scholar, Brent Suter shove. Let me read you what he's above the 95th percentile in. Average exit velocity, 99th percentile. His hard hit rate is 14.6%. You know where that places him? Number 1 in Major League Baseball. His expected ERA is 2.03, which puts him in the 94th percentile. Expected batting average, 96th percentile, because opponents are expected to hit 154 to this point. How about slugging? Is he giving up hard contact? Nope. 191 expected slugging, and then the barrel percentage is also in the 94th percentile. Now, he's not shiny. His fastball velocity is in the first percentile, and that's not good. You want it to be in the red. And yeah, like, is he throwing his four-seam fastball 85.6 miles an hour? Yeah. Is he smarter than you? No doubt about it. Brent Suter, among pitchers who've thrown at least 16 innings, is number one in ERA at 1.10. And what makes it more impressive is that he's pitching on the moon. He throws at Coors Field. Give the man his credit. He's shoving at 85, and I watch him, and I'm like, how the hell is this even possible? But it's happening, and I'm here for it.
Big number here, or big letter here, I should say, is E in ERA. Earned run average.
Yeah.
7 runs, 2 earned.
Okay. Your point?
My point is shit can spiral, and it can be unearned runs because you have a timely error.
What is this exercise for? This is shouting out under the radar guys.
For sure. For sure.
Having great starts to the year.
100%.
You think Brent Suter cares about those 7 runs? They're unearned. They aren't his.
I mean, he may care if that means the Rockies lost another game.
Yeah, but they were going to lose anyway.
Brent Suter has a sub-1 whip. I'll give him that.
Look at that.
Suter is a very smart guy. He did a weird dinosaur impression in the spring that kind of caught me off guard. And like,
you just don't get it. You're not as smart as him.
I don't get it. I'm not a dinosaur guy. Like, I don't get
I'm a dinosaur guy.
I know. Like, without you telling me, I knew you were a dinosaur guy.
Loved dinosaurs when I was growing up. T-Rexes, Velociraptors, Triceratops, pterodactyls. Always been a dinosaur guy.
Yeah. Pterodactyl, how do you spell it?
Next question.
No, first letter of pterodactyl. What is it?
P.
P? Good shit, man.
Yeah, I'm not an idiot.
I'm so Suter, like, I don't know. My one-word analysis is trade.
I don't know. Maybe the Rockies extend him. They've done it before.
Probably they did it to Bard.
Like, fuck it.
Why not?
But the Rockies have some sneaky good arms in the back of that pen. Justin Lawrence, another guy who kind of looks like Adam Ottavino clone.
I think Lawrence has retooled a sweeper. And this sweeper is like disgusting. And from that arm slot, it plays so well. I wrote up an article last week, I guess, beginning of last week on justbaseball.com, pretty much defining the sweeper. Like, what is it? Who's throwing it best right now? And Ohtani's the gold standard of sweeper throwers. But in the bullpen, like, Justin Lawrence is a great example of that in Colorado. Kevin Kelly is a great example of that in Tampa, because they come from that sidearm arm slot, and that sweeper like sweeps even farther than a guy that's like over the top or 3/4 that's trying to snap off, a slider or a sweeper. So, yeah, I mean, like, Lawrence has been good. I think Pierce Johnson has been pretty good.
Yeah.
It's the Rockies.
Yeah, that's kind of it. But Brent Suter, just when your head hits the pillow tonight, just know that Brent Suter's throwing 86 and getting outs.
He might be him.
My kind of pitcher.
He might be him. Schmidt ball.
Might be him. Yeah. Last thing I want to wrap on before we end the show. See what the A's have been doing? Cropping home runs so that you don't see the signs that say sell the team, John Fisher on broadcast. They're like cropping that out when a guy hits a home run. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Stand by it. You know what you did. You didn't put a product on the field on purpose, and you're not going to do so for the next couple of years until you get to Vegas. Stand in front of your mistakes. You did this to A's fans, and there are plenty of them. I know there are. There are plenty of A's fans that listen to this podcast. They DM us. They say, thanks for sticking up. I am sticking up for you because you deserve it. John Fisher, you dickhead. Are you kidding me? Cropping it. It might not have been him, but it's definitely people in the A's front office being like, we can't have those signs, people seeing it. Come on. Be a man.
I saw that story briefly, and I guess my one thought was like, wow, I applaud them for putting effort into censoring because they're not putting effort into roster construction.
So that's fucked up. I mean, come on. Stand in front of your mistakes. You intentionally put a bad product on the
Yeah,
field.
but like, here's the thing. I don't like that you're using the word mistake here because it clearly wasn't a mistake.
True. It's a good point.
I mean?
Yep. Mistake is the wrong word. It was on purpose. So stand by it.
Yeah.
You're right. Mistake
Stand
was
by
the wrong
your
word.
decision to strategically leave the place that has housed your franchise for however many decades to go to the booming city in America. And like, good business decision for sure, but you did it in the shittiest way ever.
A mistake is believing in the White Sox. A problem and doing it on purpose is what the A's have done. There's a difference.
You can plug the merch now if you want.
That was my friend Jack McMullen, who is a White Sox fan. Forgive him for his mistake being born in Chicago and liking the White Sox. Please get yourself some Just Baseball merch. Jack, take it away from the freaking screen so you're not shoving it in people's faces. Look at how it looks on our heads. Get yourself some Just Baseball merch. Hopefully you all enjoyed our first Monday episode with Walker Buehler. It will be happening every Monday. And the Just Baseball show is sponsored by BetMGM. It's one of the last few days to go get that promo. Get your free money. Wager $10 on any MLB game and get up to $100 in bonus bets. It won't last for long. Books don't just give out money all the time, but they are in the meantime. So go grab it while you can. And if you don't want to spend a dime, if you don't want to put your money in anything, no worries. If you could rate and review this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we'd greatly appreciate it. We're up almost 1,000 5-star reviews on Spotify. Let's get us there. Really appreciate you guys all listening. We will be back tomorrow like we are every day. And with that, thank you, everybody.